12 years of coaching experience. Played at the professional and collegiate level. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Matson. Tim, welcome to the program, man.
Great to be here, guys. Let's turn this into a hockey show.
This is why we brought you. This is one of the many reasons. Obviously, because you're Tim Matson. You know what I mean? That's number one. But number two, you got to put us onto the game, man.
Yeah, it's I've been here 12 or less 15 years, something like that, and I think this is a hockey town.
Okay.
It's tough to say that right now in a football show, primarily when especially when the Bills are awesome.
Yeah,
But
this time
I
of
still
age,
think this is a hockey town.
Well,
So-
before we get into all the sports and everything, it's so weird because like a week or two ago, I don't know how this guy keeps doing this. It was our 1 year anniversary show, Tim, and somehow this guy sent us a bottle of champagne, just popped out of nowhere, and same situation happened today. I don't know how he got this here. I think he meant to send it to you, but he sent it over here. I don't know if you could read that. It says, to
Is that-
Tim from Nick.
Smiley
Smiley
face.
face. A nice cold
Oh.
Bud Light. What?
What?
So
That's always been Nick's drink of choice.
he said it had to be Bud Light because you're a hockey guy. I guess that's what the hockey guys do. But you're here to educate us today on that, right?
Yep. No, Nick's a good man. I met him playing beer league at Dwyer Arena 15 years ago, and I was wondering who this guy was. I'm like, he can barely skate. But
Oh!
but he always found a way to score. So finally, I'm like,
Sounds like him.
dude, I've never seen a guy like this who can't skate, but you score every game. And we hit it off pretty good there. And yeah, Nick's a good man and a good friend.
Yeah, solid guy. For the most part, his jokes still has some room to grow there, but overall, good guy.
They all can't be home runs, though. You know?
You're right. That's a good point.
He thinks they're funny. So
That's all that matters. As long as he's happy, we're
Yeah.
happy. Shout out Nick,
Hey.
man. Shout out
we
Nick.
love you, Nick.
But all right, let's get into it, Tim. How did this journey with hockey begin? And feel free to share your playing experiences with us and our fine listeners at home.
Sure. I'll give you a brief history lesson here. So, I grew up in Minnesota, which is the hockey hotbed of the country, and played junior hockey, and then played college hockey at NU, actually up the road here.
Shout out. It always ties back to either NU or Buffalo, doesn't it? It's crazy.
Always. And then when I got done playing, I got right into coaching. Coached 1 year at junior, then I came back to NU and I was an assistant for 7 years. And then I left, went back to Minnesota, and I coached for 4 more years in junior and college. Then my wife and I said, that's enough of chasing that. She's from here. I love it here. We moved back. I started a company called Next Level Hockey that we it's really hard to explain. I explain it a different way every time, but we basically advise hockey players on their career. We do no pro stuff. It's all on the amateur side. So there's this thing in hockey called junior hockey, which is different than every other sport. So it's really tricky to navigate through. So we help players and families through that as they pursue their college dreams.
That's amazing to hear. And it's like, even you mentioned it, you come to the realization that this is a hockey town, and an outlet and opportunity like that for the young players is phenomenal. And that's amazing that you started that there. Tim, Brendan has a quick question here.
Yeah, so actually a little birdie was talking to me about an intermission story.
Nick. Yeah, back at your
yes.
No, it was not Nick. Okay? It's just a little birdie.
Yeah, I think he mentioned it was back at your time with the Minnesota Wilderness. If you could elaborate on that.
Yes, great story. So when I left here after coaching at NU, I went out to Minnesota and I was coaching junior hockey, and Nick, our good friend Ryan Gale from St. Catharines, and our good friend Christian Glowinski, who works with the Golden Knights down at T-Mobile Arena now.
Shout out.
They all three still lived here, and they flew out and spent a weekend with me for our home opener. And I grabbed our PR lady that did all the intermission stuff, and they got randomly selected to go out in between periods for the intermission show, and they took turns going in a slingshot, and they'd sling them all the way across the ice, and they would have to knock over bowling pins. And Christian Glowinski and Ryan Gale both got strikes, and Nick knocked over one pin. Shocker.
Oh.
Sounds about it. You know, this guy, you can never count on him.
You know, I'm glad we came back to win the game because it was one of the lowest moments of my coaching career. Really embarrassed and
Leave it to Nick. Leave it to Nick, you know.
I think I don't know if he remembers it. I would assume he barely does because those guys had a heck of a time. But yeah, that was a story we'll never forget. I wish I got you guys a picture of it to put up on the screen. I wish I had one of those ready.
Man, we would have loved that. Next time. If you could ever find it and dig it up,
I was about to say, you gotta find it.
We'll be more than happy to pull it up on the screen here for everyone to see.
Perfect.
But going away from your saddest moment of your coaching career, let's talk about what led you and your passion to coach the game after playing. And was it always a dream career of yours? And how did that translate into next level hockey?
Well, I knew I wasn't good enough to play in the NHL, so I love the game so much, and it was always such a big part of my life that the logical step would be to give coaching a try. And I got into it, fell in love with it, and I mean, I'm almost 39 years old, and I'm lucky enough to say I've never gotten a paycheck outside of the game of hockey, and I never played in the NHL, so that's something I'm proud of.
Yeah, that's quite a little pat on the back, don't you think?
Big pat on the back, for sure. So, but something I'm really proud of because I love the game so much and love helping players and loved helping players when I coached and the business that I'm in now. There's a big piece of I can get my coaching fix on plenty right now, just with helping mentor these kids through their hockey journey. So it's really gratifying and fun.
It's amazing to hear. Brandon, you got another question for Tim here?
Yeah, so actually, you were talking about being a player and a coach for the collegiate level. What do you think about the NILs and just how it's all evolved from since you played to now?
Ooh, it's interesting times for sure. Hockey's an interesting sport compared to college football, college basketball. It's not necessarily a revenue sport, and it's starting to happen in our game where some of the quote unquote bigger schools are able to provide some things for the players. I like it because I think if the schools are making money off of the players, they deserve something out of it. But
right.
I also don't know if I love all of it because I think the rich are going to continue to get richer, and you're going to end up crushing the little guys that work so hard to build their programs too. So I guess I'm kind of 50-50 on it, but I think especially in those big time sports like football and basketball, with the amount of money that they make, I think those guys deserve something out of it.
Right. So, I mean, how do we get hockey to get on that level? You know what I mean? Because these guys, they need the money too, right? They need the recognition.
Well, it costs a lot of money to run a hockey program. I mean, hockey sticks nowadays, you can't find one for under $300.
Jeez Louise.
And
no wonder why our brother stopped playing. He was like, I feel bad.
He was a goalie too.
Yeah.
Even worse. Yeah. You're a goal, even worse. I think it's a growing game. It's the hard part with hockey is it's so expensive, and there's a lot of markets out there in different pockets of the country where it's really hard to get it going because it costs so much money to play.
Right.
And just to keep up with everybody else, you're spending more and more money. It's become a year-round sport. Every weekend in the summertime, people are going out to tournaments. It's really challenging, and I fear that the game pricing itself out a little bit of growing. But it's a great game, and hopefully that calms down a little bit and it can continue to grow.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like what you're doing with Next Level Hockey, I mean, is you're going to really help that cause as well. But speaking of, I mean, you kind of mentioned the Golden Knights. Um, so they're now in possession of old Lord Stanley for the first time in the franchise's history after an incredible season. Uh, what made them so dominant? Now let's get into the hockey brain a little bit, a little more of the analytical side. What made them so dominant in the Stanley Cup final to end the Cinderella run for the 8 seed Panthers? See, we're not a big hockey show, but we know our stuff a little bit, Tim. Okay.
At least we try to. We try to keep up.
I can tell. You do. I can tell. You know, the game, there's not a lot of fighting in the game anymore. And it's become much more skill, speed, making plays based. But every year, the team that wins the cup ends up being bigger, heavier. Like I think Vegas is the average size on their decor was 6'2", 6'3". I don't know if they had a guy under 6 foot.
And that's off skates too, right? Because I mean, how much the measurables are a little taller on the ice too, right?
Yeah,
for sure. Add another 3 inches to that. So, but the competitiveness, like I don't know if it's a sore subject to bring up on here, but
oh boy, here we go.
Jack Eichel was a totally different player in the playoffs this year than he was when he was in Buffalo. Played harder, was more competitive, and played heavier like the rest of their team did. So obviously their team bought into the Kool-Aid that the coach was serving them.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's, for me at least, it's not as sore of a subject because I was always a Jackie Aces fan, right? So when he kind of left, I'm like, the Sabres kind of stink. I might be jumping on the wagon, and now that they won the cup, I'll admit to it. I might be a fan.
We'll also remember that was the year we got kicked out of the #1 spot for McDavid.
Oh yeah,
when we got him.
Maybe
it could have been a whole different story.
Maybe the ties could have shifted. We're speaking with Tim Madsen here. So helping the youth reach the next level is essentially a driving force for next level hockey in your line of work. Could you tell us a little more about that process and what you would recommend to the next generation listening right now?
Sure. I'm sure like any sport in that there's a lot of options out there, but if you're smart and thorough and not to be Mr. Cliche here, but if you understand that the game is a process and you got to take it 1 year at a time. The biggest challenge that we run into, and we got 7 other guys that work with Next Level Hockey as well. So we all have players that we work with, and the biggest challenge is everybody's worried about everybody else and trying to keep up with the Joneses. So it's like, well, why did he make that team? I'm better than him. Or why is he going to this showcase and not me? I should be going to that. Instead of just worrying about yourself and your process to get to where you want to get to. And that's probably the biggest challenge we run into every single day. And the ones that are willing to be open-minded to listening and taking your advice are going to save a lot of money along the journey. We've saved families in 3 years. I opened this 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. We've saved families over $500,000 just on hockey decisions alone.
That's unbelievable.
Just something as simple as someone's begging you to go to this. Well, how about you go to this one? It's an hour from home. This one's a flight and a hotel, and you're going to get the same value. So go to this one instead. So you're giving them advice. You just saved the family $2,000
just from traveling home. Yeah.
Yep. So, there's a lot of different like pieces at our company, a lot of different angles that we help families with. And the big one is the financial piece to try to save them money. Cause there's just like anything, there's good events and there's propaganda out there in this game, and you got to be smart what you do. Cause, if you make the wrong decision, you're just throwing your money in the dumpster.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And then, you kind of touched on, like, not even just helping the families financially, but what would you recommend to the next group of kids that want to get into hockey and just from like a skill set and even just like they see the pros on TV. They don't really fully understand how they got there. Essentially,
Hmm.
they think it's just okay. They play hockey. This is what they were given to, and took advantage of the schools they went to and everything in the programs. Uh, what would you say to those kids that you kind of want to tell them, like, okay, there's more to it, like the hard work you got to put in yourself, and what is that pathway for them to becoming one of those pros that they see on TV?
Great question. I think you have to be obsessed might not be the right word, but you have to love the game so much that you're willing to put in all that extra work to develop and continue to get better and better as your journey goes on. But at the same time, you also have to be a kid,
Right.
and you don't have to play 7 days a week, 12 months a year, go play football, go get in some trouble, go get dirty, um, go hang out with your buddies. It's okay to have a life away from the game. But when it's go time for the game, I just find that the kids that, again, I want to say the word obsessed, that they love it. They love the game so much they're obsessed with it, and the training and watching NHL games on TV, learning, loving the game.
I
I think
feel
there's you
I
got to
feel
find
like
you got.
yeah, I feel like obsession is the right word. I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I do feel like they need that kind of driving force, not to even just be like a fan of it, but they want to find that obsession and put that work in to get there.
Couldn't agree more. Like I wasn't talented enough to get to play college hockey just on the talent alone. I had to be obsessed, and I'll use that word for myself, obsessed with loving the game so much that I outworked so many people, and that's how I earned my opportunity to play Division I hockey. And so that's always kind of been my attitude with it. And every kid's different. Some kids are naturally talented enough where they can do it anyways, but those are the one percenters.
Right, and I feel like kids some of them once they fail, I mean even adults too, they think it's the end of the world, but it depends what they do with that failure will determine their progress and their drive, so to speak. So they got to learn how to fail before they succeed. Most of them, essentially.
I love it. I've said the same thing, especially to parents. Like, I'll give you an example. A kid gets healthy scratched,
Hmm.
and mom and dad call and they're freaking out. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, I kind of like that. Let's see how he comes back. Let's see if he pouts about it and it's going to affect him for 10 games negatively, or if he's going to man up, put the work boots on, and figure it out, because
Yeah.
life isn't fair, just like this game. Um, People don't like hearing that sometimes, but that's how my company operates. And we tell the truth and we tell them how we think it is and try to help mentor them that way.
Yeah, and that's essential too. Um, like you need that person or that you need to be surrounded by those group of people that are going to tell you something that you don't want to hear, right? And I believe Moranto has a question too, real quick.
Hey,
Tim.
how you doing? So this is Rich. I know you can't see me, but I was involved coaching a lot of soccer, and that was the biggest problem that I ran into was getting parents to understand. This is this Bob's decision or is this your decision? Like trying to get. Sometimes the parents were more passionate than the kid, and the kid would understand why he wasn't the starting forward or the starting left back or whatever, but the mom and dad didn't. And I'm sure that's probably, and as you can probably advise, and I'm guessing in soccer locally, with all the travel and the Premier and all that stuff that we have now, just a lot of bad players out there, like in terms, not the players themselves, but the players that are running these organizations that it sounds like your company tries to help them navigate, the parents and the families and the kids navigate that. Is that a big part of what you guys have to kind of do?
It is, and it's a big part of it actually. I think when people sign on with us, it's not really the intention, but as time goes on, you end up being a parent advisor just as much as a player advisor, and they love their kids so darn much and want the best for them. But it goes back to what you talked about earlier with letting them fail a little bit. That love sometimes overtakes that piece of it, and they have a really hard time. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them have trouble understanding that that's actually going to make them better. And not just in hockey, but again, to be cliche machine here, in life as well, because sports and in life, you can give 1,000 examples where you run into adversity and you got to deal with it.
Yep. Yeah, you got to face it one-on-one for sure and learn and grow from that. Yeah, that was a great topic, and you had some great answers for us there in terms of just like, because it's not even like you mentioned, it's just not even for hockey. That's like life in general, and they can incorporate that into other sports they're playing as well. But speaking of other sports, Tim, we appreciate your time here, obviously, in your busy schedule. We're mainly a football show, as we kind of spoke before we got on the air. So we can't let you get out of here without asking you who your favorite team is, and if you're into NFL football, if you have any cool or like funny NFL experiences you had, please feel share with us and our listeners.
I have one really good story. It's really, really good for me because of who won the game. But you guys will think it's a good story. So, being from Minnesota, I'm a diehard Vikings fan. And last winter,
Skull. Skull.
I'm not doing
Skull.
it. It hurts my soul. Can't do it.
So last winter, two of my uncles flew out for the Bills Vikings game. And the main reason to fly out here, other than to see myself and my family, was to experience the Bills Mafia.
Oh yeah, it's
Because everybody knows.
It's
Everybody
something.
knows how passionate and awesome it is. And so they come out. My one uncle wore one of those 1980 or 1990 starter jackets, Vikings logo. I thought he was going to get jumped. But the fans treated him awesome. We had a ton of fun. They got the tailgate experience. Then we get to the game. And I forget the exact way it went at the end, but I think Minnesota was winning off that crazy play with Jefferson. As soon as he scored, we left.
Thought it was
And there
over.
was 30 seconds left.
Thought it was over.
And then we hear the crowd. We try getting back in the building, and they tell us we can't get back in. So we had to watch the end up on the Jumbotron from the building.
From outside. Yeah, that was like I was at that game as well. And that was one of the most insane games I've ever seen in person. Like Justin Jefferson, literally, it was like watching Madden in real life. He had the X Factor on. Whatever Kirk Cousins was throwing up to him, he was coming down with it. Sorry, brother Brennan. I mean, that was kind of a.
It was a great catch, though. Like you can't beat that.
It was. I mean, even he had a few of them. Not even just that one.
Yeah.
You know.
The
Yeah,
whole
it was,
game.
it was unbelievable. And like, I kind of spoke about this earlier. Like, where because I was at the game, I just mentioned there was a Vikings fan in our section, and there was like we were in like the asshole section, whatever. It must have just been for that game. They're like messing with them and everything, and he wasn't saying nothing. And so I'm sitting there low key. I'm like, man, I can feel momentum shift a little bit. This guy might turn out to be a little happy Vikings fan at the end of the day. So then shit hits the fan with Buffalo, and yeah, the rest was history. So, and then real quick too, you're a Vikings fan. News from last week: Kirk Cousins isn't re-signing his tender in Minnesota, so this is potentially his last year. What do you think is going to happen with the quarterback situation over there? Are we going to get a good season out of Kirk this year, or what's going on?
You know, everyone bags on Kirk in Minnesota quite a bit, and yeah, it's tough because statistically he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he
is.
Never won
He's
the
not
big-
lying,
he's never won
Brennan. He's not lying.
he's never gotten it done at the end. So I guess I'm being one
You
of
said
those
it, I
right
didn't have
now
to.
where I'm like, I don't know. That's a tough question. Nice to have a quarterback. You guys know that. So
Well,
we'll see.
So I'm a Colts fan. Breaking news
Oh,
to new listeners to the show, Tim. So we had a different quarterback for like the past 7 years.
yeah.
So-
You wouldn't know.
Yeah, so we're just getting our hopefully franchise guy now in Anthony Richardson. So hopefully we're gonna get the Josh Allen effect with this guy. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Kirk Cousins okay. We'll see if they get him over hump this year. What's your thoughts on Dalvin Cook getting released though? That's been in the big news market the past couple weeks since there's nothing really else going on.
honestly, I saw the headline or I saw it on Twitter or something, and I don't know why. I don't know what the reasoning is. Do you guys know? I'm rattled by that.
So back in March there was like trade rumors, and they kind of died down because they didn't get a deal done. I really don't know. It wasn't the money, right? Because he was getting a good paycheck there.
I think so. That's why I was so puzzled when I saw that, and I wondered if he said he wanted out or I don't know. I know as much as you guys on that, but all I know is it bothered the living daylights out of me when I saw that being a Vikes fan.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of your best players too offensively. It could have been usage. I don't know, because I mean, whenever he did get the ball, he was more than likely to score, make a big play out of it. But we really thank you for your time here today, Tim. Shared a lot of hockey knowledge. This might be turning into a hockey show.
I'm over here biting my tongue because I think Buffalo's a hockey town. I grew up with Buffalo. I've been a big Sabres fan my whole life, even in the rough years. But I remember you talked about, like the way the game has changed. And I remember the Sabres were so built for the future after the lockout. And then all of a sudden we got to the playoffs that year, and then it was old-time hockey again. We had built a team that was for the new NHL, and it just, and I still have that bitter taste in my mouth, obviously. But, I mean, I've been watching them the last few years, and, I got to a bunch of games last year, and I just can't wait I think, I can't wait to see if Buffalo really starts to realize what they've got in this team in Buffalo with the Sabres.
I want so bad for the Bills and the Sabres to be contenders at the exact same time.
City will burn.
To see the city rocking.
Tim, we can't have it. The city will burn down. You remember?
Too much good things going on.
You remember quarantine? It's going to be like that again, pal.
I believe it.
Yeah, I mean these guys don't probably remember the Sabres went to the finals and against Dallas, and how behind this team was, and then how terrible the offseason was. It was like we lost our two favorite children, and they got adopted or something that summer. I mean, like there's a lot of people
players at the time
that never really kind of bounced. There's a lot of Buffalo fans that never bounced back from those off-season decisions, and but it is exciting, and I like. How do you like the game now? Do you like the game more now as it's evolving, or what do you miss? Do you miss hockey of old, or do you think there's some mix in the middle?
I would probably lean more with the mix in the middle. I love seeing the skill and the speed, and I think we can get best of both worlds. Like when I answered the question about the Knights and Panthers, because as much as the game has changed that way, playoff time is still big boy hockey.
Yeah, that's for sure.
100%. This is the best time of year, in my opinion, to watch it. That's when I pretty much get tuned into it. They're scrapping a little bit, a little towards the end. But can't thank you enough for your time here, Tim. Hopefully we could have you on again. We had a great conversation about hockey today. You're probably going to be our go-to hockey guy.
Anytime, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys are great.
All right. Really appreciate it again. And we'll find a way to send this out to you. I don't know how we got it here or got the addresses screwed up, but we'll get it to you. Don't worry about it, Tim.
Somehow, some way.
You know what?
It's still cold.
This guy's a magician.
We'll send that back up to Nick.
All right. There we go.
Good idea. We're actually me and Maranta are going up there Thursday, so I might actually just bring it with us for the road trip.
Enjoy, boys.
All right.
Thank you,
everybody. Tim Matson, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. Have a great one.
You as well.
You too.